everyone in the game is going to get one heroic thing that you can put in any slot. You're also going to get it to drop higher out of the vault. And every time you kill a normal end boss, which can be done by any Mythic Pluser, you could have never stepped into the raid at any point, and you can be totally fucking beans at the game, and you will kill that boss. It drops one normal eye level Omni token, which can go to any class and any character, and it can be traded if you want to trade it to like your friend or whatever. Like, and it's gonna get like personal looted out to the raid. That's gonna just massively increase tier acquisition, like fucking shitload. Like across if you just forget your individual character, if you're just clearing the normal end boss, which can be done by anyone, right? And you're clearing the thing, your tier acquisition in the next patch early is like fucking huge. Huge. So, the reason why I'm saying this is, with tier being less of an issue next patch, when people are talking about gear targeting, they're very exclusively, tell me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure they are talking about targeting very rare loot and specifically trinkets, either raid or from Mythic Plus. If they're talking about something that they want, it's almost... and weapons too, I guess. Yeah. Weapons, trinkets, and very rare loot. It's not really the tier as much anymore. Still will be in like week 1 or 2 or whatever, but you'll get 4-piece way faster this patch. Weapons can be crafted. True. So many people used crafted weapons this last patch, yeah. So I don't know, just something for that.
In raids, that is a deterministic way to get any set item you want. So adding that determinism when that magnitude is that high is definitely something we've talked about.
And the raid cloak?
When it comes to certain items...
Yeah, raid cloak's super whatever.
Talking about the bow.
It got nerfed a lot. Yeah, very rare loot. I think magnitude is an excellent question for this upcoming patch.
Exactly. And like, the goal of those things is not to hit that point where you just don't feel like you're viable without it, where set bonuses definitely, we've seen, can reach into that area. So sometimes when that happens, that's really just like a tuning concern, right? And as I just said, with the philosophy of our items being such that often we just let those things ride, that definitely can cause problems. But that's kind of philosophically where we look to kind of solve those problems.
Okay, yeah, for sure. And then that actually, it kind of answered a couple of my other ones as well, so that was awesome. So I want to ask you, now that we've gone through 2 seasons of Mythic Plus, we're about to start the second one, but we know the layout, which at both times has been the 4 Dragonflight dungeons. I'm going to skip this because he doesn't really give me an answer. I kind of swung and missed here. I was looking for some information. Like, the first Mythic Plus season is 4 Dragonflight dungeons, 4 old ones. Second Mythic Plus season, exact same thing. He did say that like he thinks 8 is the right number for Mythic Plus seasons because the dungeons are new every time. I think I can kind of get behind that. But he basically, when I asked him what season 3 could look like, because there's no obvious roadmap for that, he just was like, I'm not going to say anything about it. So I mean, he doesn't really, that we're introduced at the beginning. I'll just skip through this.
Stress just how big of a deal that was, which also led us to kind of like some of those big Mythic Plus kind of app explosions.
Are you being forced out?
I don't know.
How much time do we have?
What am I doing?
Okay, so there was something. Here's my guess for season 3. This is not word on the street situation. This is not a leak. I have not actually been told anything. My guess is he just said it was 8 dungeons, right? So I think it's gonna be Mega Dungeon 1, Mega Dungeon 2. I think it's gonna be Old Dungies 1, and then Old Dungies 2. Here's my guess. I think they're only bringing back 2 old dungeons. I think they're gonna make brand new Dragonflight dungeon. I think they're gonna make 2 of them. Now, this is not completely out of nowhere. They were asked the question before the expansion, are they going to make more single dungeons throughout the expansion, similar to how they did in Legion when they made Cathedral and Seat? And their response was yes. The reason we had not done that in previous expansions was because the dungeons, we noticed in Legion that people disliked those keys in their opinion. They were also super overtuned initially, but they eventually weren't overtuned, and people still skipped them, and mostly because they were new. If you have 13 dungeons in your pool, and 2 of them you're less familiar with, you're less likely to do those keys. So they didn't do them for BFA or Shadowlands for that exact reason. Now that the dungeons are new every season, they did state in an interview that they are going to do this. I don't know if they're going to do 2 new dungeons in the same patch that they're also making a mega dungeon. Maybe this is something for Season 4, but I'm just going to throw my guess out anyway. Seat was overtuned, now let's be honest. Initially, actually, I know more than a few people, including a lot of people you guys respect and know who do Mythic Plus, where Seat was one of or their literal favorite Legion dungeon, including one of mine. It was not super overtuned that late in the expansion. It was just initially overtuned and then less familiar. And then Old Dungeon 1 and Old Dungeon 2. I spelled dungeon wrong, but we're keeping it. That's my guess. If they don't bring back any other dungeon, they might bring back one of the Dragonflight dungeons from Season 1 and 2. Who knows?
Where am I going?
All I'll say is in the last...
You guys are good for 5 extra minutes if Morgan's good.
All right, that's beautiful.
There you go.
Okay, well then I gotta be very selective then.
Okay.
So quick thing about the UI, and this can actually be short. So obviously UI changes this expansion are a step in the right direction. A lot has been overhauled so far, but is it possible that default nameplates and or buff and debuff blacklisting and filtering could be on the horizon? So the second one, for whatever reason when I wrote this question, it didn't occur to me that like debuff and buff blacklisting and filtering was a way more niche suggestion. Mostly because I asked my chat what the UI still needs the most work on, and I mean default nameplates was like fucking 90% of it, but the other 10% was like we need weak auras basically to do buff and debuff tracking because there's no way to blacklist default buffs and debuffs, which is a real concern. Looks like I'm doing some kind of fucking dance move. I'm about to start doing the YMCA or some shit. What is Morgan doing? Oh, Jesus. He looks... Wow. He's going through an experience at the moment. So yeah, he's basically like buff and debuff blacklisting. That's super on the back burner. But I actually believe that buffs and debuffs are a pretty fundamental part of WoW. And you are basically forced to use some kind of add-on to track buffs and debuffs because you are unable to blacklist really irrelevant ones. And you usually, most good players use weak auras to highlight important debuffs every patch because there's no way to really easily blacklist or filter them. So
Interesting. Default nameplates, I think, is something that is definitely discussed a lot. Like, everyone is interacting with nameplates. When it comes to buff and debuff blacklisting, like, I would say that...
He did say they were working on default nameplates, though. Default nameplates need God himself. They need the fucking
very
good
much,
lord.
Kind of veers into like add-on territory.
They're
where you
so
start
bad.
To get that granular about
Add-on requirement for default nameplates. They are very bad.
The out-of-the-box experience, the default experience, that's the one that we want to be as accessible as possible. So once you get into that world where you're really getting into higher-end activities or rating, that customization is really such an
Dude, I think
awesome
Reptar needs to poop.
tool, right? Like, it's one of the unique things about World of Warcraft.
Reptar's
not
got to
just as an
poop for
MMO, but,
sure.
like, as a
I think he's
game,
farting.
customizable.
I'll be right back. Yeah. I'll play a quick ad so we get a delayed one later.
feed on conflict. When you have peace in your heart, strife will find
Dodge.
somewhere else to roam. You have my thanks, heroes. You have given peace to this sacred dome. Now, off with you. I require meditation before I begin the restoration
Dodge.
ritual.
Dodge. Avoid. 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 Run. Run.
All right.
Avoid.
Mm-hmm. All right. We're back. Yeah.
That's kind of the space that we feel like is still kind of carved out for that type
Almost
of
an hour
change.
till the next
Very
ad,
cool.
too. And then bouncing around totally different area, tier
Okay.
sets, where I think so far, and you saw this with the introduction of talent trees, you saw a lot of people bring back
Dodge.
old tier bonuses that were well liked and like kind of made the gameplay of your class better. The tier sets you guys brought in at the beginning of this expansion, I think very vocally you were saying they were supposed to be very basic. We do
Right.
not want to overload the players when there's already so much that's
Dodge.
new all at one time. You've already seen now in the first patch, I think, that you guys are willing to be a little bit more creative with tier bonuses, kind of similar to how you've been in the past. My question is this: so, in an expansion focused on evergreen systems in general, is it possible that if you come up with a tier set, and I think a lot of ways what tier sets are now that they're more creative is a way for a class designer to get really creative and be like, what would be a cool way for this class to operate going forward, or like just for this patch? It's like a quick time to test it. Is it possible that if we ever get any of those where the community is like, man, this makes my class feel better, is it possible that those could be retroactively introduced to the talent tree in place of some talent tree nodes that are less attractive?
God, my beard is
Yeah,
fucking insane.
Sorry, parsing. Yes, so I think your first part was people might have noticed like the Dragonflight talent trees. There are some greatest hits of set bonuses already in the talent trees, right? I think even going back to Shadowlands, there's one of the 9-2 set bonuses in there with like the Virtue of Ruin for Destruction Warlocks, right? And then in terms of like, would we be willing to add those things into the trees moving forward?
Is this the he's
I think,
parsing part?
Short answer,
Yeah.
yes. We would be open to that, but I think we would need to be cautious about
Looks like
doing
you're
it,
shaking
right?
in
Like,
your
because
seat.
as soon
I
as you
always
start
am.
to do that too much, you start to veer into, you know, this
Always moving,
borrow
baby.
power territory, which is not what the goal of the talent trees are. But if it is solving kind of some core problems that are like, oh wow, okay, this is actually something that, you know, not only does the community think is awesome and wants to see integrated in the talent tree, and especially if there's a specific problem we're trying to solve, like, yeah, so that would be great in the talent tree, and, you know, there's some space over here where we're not happy with something. That's actually absolutely an option. Actually,
And he's about to say this, but
Dodge.
wait, where is this question? Is it up here? Oh yeah.
Dodge.
I even said as an example, Evoker Healer's getting a free instant cast Living Flame. But I didn't ask it in the question, but he says that right after this.
funny enough, I was talking to the combat team earlier. I think that might actually be something they're discussing for, like, you know, the Evoker instant living flame.
Oh,
Um,
that is actually an exact example. I decided to skip it of
Right,
something that
but-
I think is just it's awesome for their gameplay. Like the class
Right.
feels complete with that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So that's something.
And then
that
he says
was
that it makes
discussed
more
as
sense
a,
with
like, yeah,
Evoker
maybe
'cause
that's
they're so new.
Something that could fit there versus like rogues, like we know what they're about.
Okay, and then I think I have time for one more, maybe two. So I understand the sentiment of why seasonal affixes were removed. Seasonal affixes were a solution to a problem of the dungeons are the same every patch, and now that there is no longer that problem, there is no longer that need for the solution. However, I feel I'm not alone in thinking that the few times where seasonal affixes have really, really hit, they have been one of the only things about Mythic Plus.
I think here he just he just says yeah, we could bring them back. Not too much to unpack here.
Did kind of some. That's not a thing for season 2.
Season
but
2, yeah.
Not closing the door for Future Us for sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yo, can I sneak in one more? Just
What did I this the Parry question?
If it's a quick one.
yeah, it's a quick one. Okay, so this is I'm trying to decide whether I want to do a healer one from Twitter or do a melee DPS one. I'm gonna stick to my roots in melee DPS. So
Which one do you think was a better question? Asking about parry or asking about healer mastery? I think they're both like kind of the exact same thing. Like propose a scenario for healer mastery. How do you fix healer mastery? Is it just give them spell power for offensive spells based on their mastery rating, very similar to tanks? What even is healer mastery? Here's the question. DPS mastery does damage. Tank mastery at one point in the game was only defensive, and then they added an attack power number to it so you didn't feel bad about speccing mastery, because tanks didn't want to spec mastery regardless of how good it was defensively, because it was the only secondary that didn't increase your damage. And healers have the exact same problem now, where even healers where mastery is their best stat, if they're doing like Mythic Plus or something, they'll spec out of mastery just because crit haste and burst increase their damage and mastery doesn't. And is there a way to solve that?
I actually didn't send you this ahead of time, so I hope you have a good answer for this. But just
Nobody gives a shit about parry? Oh boy, is that wrong. Dude, that's spoken from someone that's never had an important ability parried when you were like forced to be in front of a boss.
kind of let's see, the parry in a PvE setting is sometimes has like a lot of really negative reactions with certain classes. On some, it's just like you kind of do less damage, but on some classes, when you miss a buttons like Colossus Smash or Essence Break, the feeling is like all of my damage is gone. So I'm kind of wondering if I don't know. This could be like it's just parry's been around forever thing, but is it possible that parry could still punish you, but have, depending on the class you play, punishment not be as huge as it can be with that?
I think this is a bad question. I mean, it's a good question, but I don't think I phrased it well, and he misunderstood it and didn't give a great answer. Just like, what is he supposed to say? Like, he wasn't prepared for this.
Yeah, parry is an interesting one. There's actually been a lot of changes with parry in particular, like going way back to OG WoW. Parry used to like speed up your swing timer on the monster, right? So like like in Naxxramas, if your tanks happen to get parried,
It's also really
they would just
niche.
get crushed by like patchwork or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So we've already made adjustments to some
I
of
guess
the
if you
mechanics
don't
there.
aren't a melee.
Yeah, I definitely think there's opportunity for that, but that's one of those also kind of textures of what makes a rotation.
To be honest, I'd rather them not be aware of the questions. Really. They would give way worse answers. It would let them give real answers. No, it would let them give bad. Guys, someone like Morgan Day or Ian is in charge of every single branch of WoW. You know how many different branches of people make World of Warcraft? And I'm asking very specific questions of that. Like, I feel like that's such a Dobby way of looking at it. Like, you're reading it like, oh, you gave them this question ahead of time, so they had time to figure out a way to talk around it. That's probably the opposite of what would happen. If you weren't to give them these questions, they would default to that. Instead of actually, because I can tell you this for sure. I went to a hockey game with Skarzard on Friday night. And I asked him a ton of things about, like, you know, well, we were just watching the hockey game, but I was just like, I just brought up very rude. I'm like, I don't know, man. Do you think it's, like, too good? Do you think it's, like, what's the point, you know? And, like, we talked about that for a bit. And then you know what he mentioned to me? He was like, yeah, I found out earlier today. It was so funny. Like, messaged me if I want to go to a hockey game. And Morgan was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to need to talk to you because I'm doing an interview with Max. And they set a meeting for Monday to talk about the things that I was asking him specifically pertaining to what Skarzard does, which is, you know, basically the reward system for the raid, the mega dungeon, stuff like that. He would be infinitely less equipped to answer those questions if he didn't have that meeting with someone who is hands-on working with these things and designing them every day than if you just asked him normally. So the idea of, like, I wish you wouldn't give them the answers and they would give real answers, I feel like you fundamentally don't understand how this works at all. That is not how to do that. I think it would have the this dude is off work and Max wants to talk about WoW. That is not what happened at all. I brought him to the game and he brought up WoW. I don't ever try to do that. Like, if I'm hanging out with someone that, like, is from Blizzard or really anywhere else, I like kind of just to, like, enjoy people and do what I'm doing. I'm not inviting him out to a hockey game because I want to get WoW info. I'm inviting him to a hockey game because he's a cool dude and he's never been to a hockey game before, and it was his birthday this weekend. So I just thought it would be a cool thing for him to experience. I got, like, seats on the ice for a playoff LA Kings game. But I don't know. That's just, like, WoW is something we have in common, and he's super, super fucking passionate about WoW. He plays it all the time. So we always end up talking about stuff, usually raid stuff, but he's not really involved in raid. He just likes to raid. You did, or Suki got the tickets? No, I did. I paid for them, yeah. Okay. Back to the thing.
Kind of field dynamic, right? Like, if you can just kind of spell out and make, like, a macro to run your rotation, there's certainly space for that. Like, some people and specs that
With Suki's no, I paid for it. I got tickets to the next game in LA as well, on the glass. But Suki got me tickets the following day. You're thinking of the Clippers game. Suki knows the Clippers chef because she used to work at the 76ers. So the Clippers, the head chef for the Los Angeles Clippers will usually just reach out to Suki and just be like, yo, do you want some tickets? So they had 2 extra tickets to the Clippers game, like right behind their bench, and we were there on Saturday. Yeah, which was really fun. Huge shout out to him. I brought my friend Hugo, who's a big Chris Paul fan, and I don't think he'd been to he had been to a Lakers game before. Yeah.
it's actually what they're looking for, but with others is often that layer of interaction that we want you to be kind of reacting to, right? Like that's why we implement trinkets and set bonuses that are kind of proc based. So that's more of like the systemic portion of that. Although I do, now that I'm thinking about it, parry is, you can't parry from the back, right?
No, yeah,
like
there is an emphasis to be.
This is where he starts misunderstanding it a lot, I think. Because he's implying there's no way to outplay it. The thing is in a lot of times, you are kind of forced with raid positioning to be in front. You cannot always be behind. And there are those times when it feels bad, and no one is arguing that you shouldn't be punished for parry, I guess. I could also say that I'm pretty sure if parry just didn't exist, I don't know if the game is worse, to be honest with you. But let's just say it does. The punishment for only a few specific specs feels bad. Most specs, parry doesn't really matter. Like, something gets parried and it's like, whatever. But on some specs, it's like life-ending. It's so bad. That's what I'm asking. Is like, can it be designed in a way where it doesn't specifically fuck certain people when it has to happen? And then also, why does parry matter in Raid but not in Mythic Plus? Like, it is basically completely irrelevant in Mythic Plus. The chance to parry because of the mob's level is infinitely less. That you don't usually care about that kind of stuff. It just seems to me, this is my take. I'm not supposed to like lead him in this answer, but I believe parry is outdated. I just think it's something that hasn't been looked at in a while, and there's probably a better version of parry that exists or doesn't exist at all. And I don't know what that is, but that's why I wanted to ask him. Being in front, there are some fights that kind of force you in front of the boss, and there are just a few classes who, like, you know, maybe they have to like repress blackout kick, or they have to press some filler again, and then there's classes with no negative interaction whatsoever, and then there are classes where all their damage is gone because specifically one thing got parried. Okay, 1 second. And I want to type something. So do you guys see what Heat31 just said in my chat?
5.
I'm gonna post something in my sub Discord. I don't want to say it, but I just think it's fucking hilarious. I'm sorry for you guys who aren't in the sub Discord. You can join it if you want. It's in a public channel, but like I don't know. I'm not trying to say that on stream, but I think it's pretty funny, so I wanted to share it with you. Okay, going back. Basically, it's like what would the difference be if the punishment was like, oh, when a parry occurs, you do 40% less damage, but your effect and debuff still applies? Do I not have a Discord? I guess I don't have a thing. I mean, I'll just post an invite in here. Here you go. That's the Discord. It doesn't like make it not apply at all kind of thing.
So for what it's worth, and I'm sure you've seen bosses where this is the case. Usually it's the big, the jacuzzi bosses, right? That'll like can't move.
Mm-hmm.
Often in those bosses, we have the ability to just
make them unparryable. Yeah.
Right. So like that's always also feedback that we're happy.
Weird way to promote your Discord. You guys can leave right after. I think it's funny as fuck.
Where especially if you feel like, yo, you designed the fight such that some percentage of the time I have to punch this thing from the front, and that makes my class feel kind of wrong. Like that's a knob that the encounter team can adjust rather than changing like kind of a core system of how the game works. So
sure, okay.
If that happens, please let us know, and we can always take a look at that on the encounter side.
Okay, yeah, I think most of the time it's taken care of. All right, thanks. That is thank you for going over time with me. I love talking WoW with you, man. I would do it anytime.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Always fun to be here.
Fuck yeah. Really good interview. I really enjoyed that. More than my other two, I think. Now, someone said Wowhead had a different response to my interview somehow. It's not a public channel. It's literally in general. It is in the general channel. Oh, they might have some like auto mod thing on where like you have to like have a number to like set aside bots. I don't know. Random sub discords always get like brutally owned by like random people with subs. You don't see general. That's oh fuck. Okay. I'll type it in stream and then clear my chat. Okay, just give me a second. That's it. That's the whole story. That's all I typed. All right, I'm clearing chat though. So a while ago they kind of all fell off, and they were like fucking bent and like hanging from where they fell, and I just kind of left the graveyard back there forever. Fuck it. All right. Let's see what Wowhead said. Onyx Amulet. The goal was something cool that was supposed to be in the .7 update, but the following patch there would be something that you would replace it. They didn't really hit the mark on that. An item that is too strong is then a goal for the players, and nerfing would then feel really bad, so I try to avoid whenever possible. There are no plans to nerf it until at least 10.5. These are just like cliff notes. That's fine. So they didn't give any takes. Didn't give me any takes. Didn't he say we probably won't nerf it? I don't think they're going to nerf it in this upcoming season. It's going to be like 10.1.5 probably. I think it's going to be 10.1.5 or 10.2, and I think they're going to buff all the classes that use it and nerf it, because it's just going to be weird that you're still using it, I think, at a certain point. Definitely in 10.2. I thought the stones would not be BIS in 10.1. That was their goal. He admitted in the interview that they kind of missed their goal on that. So did they do I think they did a PTR build, but it didn't have any tuning or anything, because Siori's posting a bunch of boss changes.
This is your time.
Time is money, friend. Glad I could help.
Hey, Ella. Hi, girl. Ella, are you trying to... Are you being the dog version of Joel right now? Oh, is she gonna hit the mic? This is usually... She usually just fucking destroy... She's like, get the mic the fuck out of here. Are you gonna eat it? Hey. Get this thing the fuck out of my way. Give me attention, not the mic. She does not like me talking to you guys. Are you going to go over the boss changes? I think what I'd rather do is go over the tuning post from last Friday. I hadn't streamed for almost 5 days. So I was not live for the tuning notes last Friday. I think it's, fuck, where is it?
It is an excellent day for a race.
Let's turn this back on. Yo, Reptar's chewing on a hockey stick.
It is an excellent day for a race. Come fly with us.
Oh, it doesn't matter. He's just getting at the tape a little bit. The fuck, Reptar? What are you doing, buddy? What do you mean snitch? I'm glad you all snitched on him. He was trying to eat my stick. He's trying to eat my hockey stick. Ella, hey. Oh, I think she might eat it. Hey, buddy. Hey. Hey. Ella, I'm ignoring you, Ella. I'm talking to them. She's thinking about it.
Nicely done. You and your Drake are exceptional.
Let's see. Did Mythic Plus... Oh. Dude, I don't know if you guys have seen it before, but like she has picked it up with her snout and shot it all the way and like hit the wall. She wants the attention for herself. Oh, hi, Ella. Hi, Ella. Ella, we can go run outside in a bit. Can I do my stream for a little bit? Can I do my stream?
Still lose. Will you come to the aid of the forces here, champion?
My return.
Okay.
Friend, our
Time for
history
stream.
together is illustrious. Surely you'll lend me
Hey,
your
Reptar.
support here at the
Okay, I'm just gonna randomly guess on post until I hit the right one.